Okay, let's start. Welcome everybody who's joining us for this. I'm a pulmonary surgeon currently in Beijing in China, and my co-host and co-chair um, is Professor Bonney, who is now at the National University Hospital in Singapore. And we both Brexited from the UK after many years. Um, but I'm very pleased to be joined by Professor Bonney this evening. To move on to the next slide, I was just going to introduce, next slide, please, a little bit about the journal, Artificial Intelligence Surgery. It's the first journal that's exclusively dedicated to the role of AI in surgery. And the editor-in-chief is Professor Andrew Gumbs, renowned robotic surgeon who's leading the way in exploring the role of AI in surgery. And I remember when I started talking to him a couple of years ago when he asked me to join the editorial board, and I told him I knew nothing about AI. And he very reassuringly said, that doesn't matter. Nobody does. But it's something we all have to get to grips with. We're all beginners. We're all surgeons, mostly by background. It's something new for all of us. So I would say there's no role for any imposter syndrome here. We're all exploring this topic, this new hot topic together, really as novices, but try to make some sense of it and understand it and what it will mean for us in the future. So it's an open access journal. There's a website where you can access all of the articles. But apart from that, there's the webinars are collected to see. And there's a very interesting podcast called AI and Cyber Surgery, which I think comes out every week or two. And that's co-hosted by Andrew Gumbs and Dr. Vincent Grasso. And I've interviewed a lot of surgeons, some who know a lot about AI and some who are just trying to explore how it fits into their practice, as well as experts in computer science, engineers, business people as well. So that's a very interesting podcast to check out. If you go on to the next slide, please. I think the impetus for this webinar this evening has come from a recent special issue which we completed specifically on the role of artificial intelligence in HPB surgery, which I was very proud to guest edit with Professor Henry Pitt, who's one of the, as many of you know, one of the legends of US surgery. And it was mainly a collection of review articles, editorials, and some original articles from across the world. Just to run through some of the topics, there was quite a bit about, I specifically asked Long Zhao to write a paper on how he does robotic ripples and to share his tips and tricks, because I'd seen his videos and him operate, and it was, I think, important to get it down in paper. There's papers on how we can identify complications from the medical record before they happen using NLP, which is natural language processing. Professor Bonney's group focused on AI in hepatocellular carcinoma. There's the Anderson group, then have a paper on its potential role in early identification of pancreatic cancer. As I mentioned, Ewan Harrison in Edinburgh, who's really an expert on big data analysis, provided a wonderful scoping review on how AI and artificial intelligence can be applied in HPB surgery. And I'm very pleased that one of his co-authors, Dr. Drake, is going to speak to us this evening. There's additional papers on navigation techniques and on a very big problem, maybe, I hope this comes up in the questions, pancreatic cystic neoplasms. That's a huge problem for us. A huge amount being diagnosed, a huge amount being under surveillance, and then surgery. which can either be too early or too late. So we really need some solutions for this huge problem, and perhaps AI has an important role in that. There's also papers on radiomics and clinical cancer outcomes research from Professor Public's group in the USA, and again, one of his co-authors, Dr. Alaimo. Forgive my terrible Italian pronunciation. I hope Glenn does better in his introductions. So I will hand over in a moment to my co-host, Professor Bonney. But one final thing to say, we welcome questions. And I hope there'll be questions from the viewership. Just put them in the chat box and we will put them to the speakers at the end of the webinar. So without further ado, to my friend and colleague, Glenn Bonney, to introduce the speakers. Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. So we're excited to introduce these two young, excellent speakers in the field. We start today with Thomas Drake, and then we'll move on to Laura Alaimo, and finally, all being well, we'll hear from Alistair Ma. So starting with Thomas, Dr. Drake is currently a surgical trainee in the southeast of Scotland. He's a research fellow within the Usher Institute Centre for Medical Informatics and clinical lecturer at the Cancer Research UK Scotland Institute. His principal research interest is focused around improving outcomes and experiences for patients who need surgery and have cancer. To do this, he uses large data sets to look at how cancer can be detected at an early stage and in identifying how specific mutations contribute to cancer growth and therapy resistance. So over to you, Thomas, for this.